All right, I'm just going to give it a few seconds. Make sure everyone who can get in gets in. All right. All right. Well, welcome to the Co-Shelter Project. Updates on emerging trauma-informed design to shelter people with their pets. My name is Vickie Ramirez, and I am based at the University of Washington Center for One Health Research and one of the founders of the One Health Clinic. I'll be your moderator on this session today, and special thanks to Ann English and Vanessa Hidden for the background support. Just making sure that everyone is able to be admitted. Um, when we think about creating emergency shelters that are both accessible and welcoming to pets, it is easy to start feeling overwhelmed and give up before even trying. Trauma-informed design is an emerging concept that centers dignity, low stress, um, and autonomy as main objectives in the design of the shelters. The first part of the session will begin with highlighting research-driven design elements in a hypothetical shelter that contribute to the operation of a sustainable, safe, and potentially healing co-sheltering facility that helps keep families together and provides a range of services for residents and their pets. The second half of the session will discuss how one group turned those trauma-informed designs into practice and provides real-world application of guidelines, the resources they leaned on, the bumps, and the celebrations. For those who joined us for the My Dog's My Home conference in 2023, you'll see that this is a follow-up conversation that started way back then. So I'm going to introduce the speakers. Jill Pable is a professor and chair of the Interior Architecture and Design Department at Florida State University and a fellow and past national president of the Interior Design Educators Council. She holds a BS and MFA degrees in interior design and a PhD degree in instructional technology with specialization in architecture. She is CIDQ certified and well-credited interior designer. Her research focuses on the designs of environments for people in crisis, and she facilitates design resources for homelessness, a nonprofit resource offering research-informed practical designs and strategies. You can find her co-authored book, Homelessness and the Built Environment, Designing for Unhoused Persons, which was awarded the 2022 Interior Design Educators Council National Book Award in our My Dog is My Home bookshop. So go there. Okay, our second presenter is Becky Stuntebeck. Joined the UC Davis Koret Shelter Medicine Program team in April 2022. She obtained her DVM degree at the University of Wisconsin-Madison School of Veterinary Medicine in 2013. She has worked as a shelter veterinarian at two private shelters in Wisconsin, in addition to facility design. Her interests include proactive population management and infectious disease prevention, as well as building relationships with folks across the sheltering field. Outside of work, she enjoys petting kittens, getting outside, and reading. She lives in Wisconsin with her husband and daughter, three aging cats, and one rowdy puppy. And then for our last presenter, we have Judy-Rae Karlsen, who retired in 2017 from more than 20 years in government administration and then went back to work on low-income and homeless projects for Kitsap County, Washington, including the design of tiny house communities and the construction of residential shelters for homeless persons with animal companions. And that's what you'll hear about today. She is a foster fail as well. After a walk with her first street dog foster, Bogey, he jumped in her car and said, "Take me home with you," and she did. We have two very action-oriented presentation and lots to fit in, so feel free to add your questions to the Q&A in Whova, and we'll try and get as many of those in as possible. And with that, I will let Jill go.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here today, everybody, and thanks for this opportunity to share. As was just described, what we want to share with you is an idea that's been percolating for about 2 years. And it's something kind of unique, and it involves both trauma-informed design and its application specifically for a space that welcomes both people and their support animals. Next slide, please. Next slide, maybe. Yeah, so what we've got here is this is not a real shelter. We want to show you an ideal hypothetical shelter, one that's kind of removed from, those many limitations that an existing building provides or an existing site provides, just to give ideas that could be harvested for a renovation or a new building project. It also is meant to accommodate people that do not have animals with them. I think one thing that makes it unique is that it's coming from a space of trauma-informed design ideas and the architecture with that, coupled with veterinary research and psychology that's all research informed to provide ideas both large and small. These are very practical ideas. We're not trying to be pie in the sky here and not too idealized. And this whole report will be available for free download, both from the My Dog Is My Home site and also the Design Resources for Homelessness site, probably in June. Next slide, please. So, of an overall game plan, there's actually two parts to this whole initiative. The first one is already available, and it was a written report that was a collaboration between My Dog Is My Home and Design Resources for Homelessness. It is already available on both of their websites. You can see the URLs for that on the left. And then what we're going to show you today is still in progress and is going to hopefully be published somewhere around June of this year for free. So it's a free resource for whoever would like to go in and understand how trauma-informed design might be practically applied to help people to stay with their animals. Next slide, please. Before I forget, though, trauma-informed design is definitely threaded through what we're talking about today, but we don't have time to talk about it specifically. But I will say that its 6 premises are on the right. And what we found really interesting is that these 6 things, stress management, empowerment, dignity, actually probably apply to both people and also support animals, which we're kind of excited about. If you want to learn more about that, there's already a trauma-informed design report on its definitions and how you can implement it at the website that you see on the left there at Design Resources for Homelessness. Next slide, please. So for the co-shelter project, we wanted to just share with you a series of, main sort of navigation goals. We wanted to provide a place where people could reside with their animals for mutual support, not separated from their animals. We wanted to be able to manage multiple animal species, meaning cats, dogs, ferrets, rabbits, snakes, in a single facility through thoughtful sight lines and other separations, audio, as well as smell and so forth. We wanted to also prioritize keeping a positive emotional state for both people and their animals. And we wanted to acknowledge that there's going to be people probably at this shelter without animals, as well as staff who may not be entirely comfortable with animals. And staff's ideas and protections need to be a part of this as well. And that's my pup on the left. She was dead asleep, and I just think they're the awesome dogs, so I had to include a picture of one of them. Next slide, please. So what you're about to see is actually a whole bunch of ideas that are both local, but also really big. And we wanted to do that because we recognize that some of the best impact is, your local personal experience. So you'll see leashes attached to sofas to allow people to sit with their animals nearby under control. You'll see waiting pods, as you see in the upper right, to help with dogs that are perhaps highly stressed in order to help calm them down. You'll see communication methods. At the bottom right, you'll see both message boards for human residents, but also scent portals that can help animals communicate as well. And you'll also see other things such as furniture arrangements and room adjacencies in just a moment. Next slide, please. So I mentioned that this is not quite done, but here you see what's called a bubble diagram, a basic diagram that shows the big areas that are intended for this. So you can see this is a full service sort of space with offices, a health clinic, education spaces, sleeping spaces for women, men, families and also special needs persons. You'll also see a fairly full service animal care suite that needs to acknowledge, of course, our support animals here. So I'm going to show you just a few parts of this today. Next slide, please. Today, specifically, we're going to get a sneak peek of the living room, which is really the heart of the space, a selection of the sleeping areas, and then the animal care suite. All three of these areas were fairly animal intensive that seemed to be a fitting choice for today. Next slide. So starting with the living room, as I said, this is the heart of the space. This is where people gather, get to know others, watch animals and children play, and dine, hopefully in a way that's manageable and supportive for all. Next slide. So here's a floor plan of what we see as the living room. You can see it's this elliptical shape meant to be a little bit more friendly and approachable. But this is the heart of this space leading to the men's residential suite, the women's residential suite, the dining area, which is at the bottom right, the animal suite, which is off to the left, and then exterior areas that would be entered from the bottom. Next slide. Here is what you might see as you leave reception and come to this main living area. This is meant to be an orienting space. Straight ahead, you can see at the far end the dining room, where you can go through the buffet line. To the left, you can see a small lectern, which is where we can have community meetings in this space. To the left, you see lots of seating and a child space to the back left. On the right, you'll see where animals might be able to be managed and play so that they can be part of this space with their residents as well. And then in the back right is dining. Next slide. Here's another look at the recessed animal area with scent portals and a place to have a little game of ball and so forth. So people with animals are not removed from the space, but actually a part of this in a way that's manageable for people without animals. Next slide. Here's another shot of the dining space. One thing that's been really challenging for us is to figure out how people with animals could safely dine. So we landed on the idea of these enclosed pods that you see for having a family dine and also have their animal with them, but away from other people that don't have animals that also need to dine. Next slide. The residential quarters are also a really complex part of this. We're trying to accommodate many different people groups and many different animal groups, which kind of lent some complexity to this. Next slide. What you see here is a plan of just the women and families and excuse me, women with special needs areas. And you can see a complex of various restrooms, a reception area at the bottom. Next slide will show kind of a encapsulation of what's where. At the bottom, you see the reception and living room. This is the main entrance to this entire wing. And you can see there a receptionist that is the central kind of viewing port to various areas. The women singles in the pink. Special needs to the left. These are people who might be scrutinized or people who might have been released from the hospital that need to be in isolation. To the right, you can see in green the women, animals, and children area. And then to the far right, a bottle preparation area for women with infants and so forth. The yellow to the right is an area for families that don't have animals. And then to the far right in orange, you see a wing for couples that would be with their own apartments and so forth. So the arrows kind of show you that that receptionist leads to most of these areas, but gives separate entrances for areas that really need it. And then the bathrooms to the back is one large wing for the women singles and another large bathroom for the women, animals, and children. The animals area is broken up into large as well as small areas. Next slide, please. So here are some of the specific types of units. These range from full apartments to partial height wall pods. Here you see single pods, one with a cat unit on the left, one with a dog unit on the right, and then the bottom are single pods without animals. So these are modular, and you'll notice almost everything is on casters, so it can be cleaned easily and reconfigured as necessary. You'll also see small things such as bolsters to sit against when you sit on the bed, changeable wall art, personal reading, lighting, and so forth that help these become a little bit more human. Next slide. Here are a few other types of these units. These are for friends or family with a dog on the left that utilize a high ceiling area, if that's a situation in your space, or one on the right that is just for family and friends without animals. So you can see these come in a lot of different configurations, but they all share a lot of personalization space of ventilation fans, clocks, personalized identity with the signage and so forth. Next slide, please. Here you can see a large family unit with up to 6 friends or family, as well as up to 3 dogs. Again, everything's on casters to be reconfigured. This is a larger space that really kind of keeps family units intact to kind of keep that sense of community going just as it is. Next slide. And then lastly, here are some of the special needs units for 2 human partners with a cat up at the upper left, or one person with special needs, perhaps, with a dog on the right. Again, all these can be changed depending on what the clientele is on any given night. Next slide. So now we move on to the third area, the animal care suite and the exterior areas. This has been a lot of challenge, but wonderful fun to develop. Vickie has offered so many terrific ideas on this. This is a full suite for veterinary services, not only for residents, but also for others that might bring their animals to this facility for care. Next slide. Here you can see a big outside view of a large dog plaza, small dog plaza, fetch pods on the left, play pods on the left, the animal care suite itself with veterinary services in the back, and then on the right, a cat grove, all of which I'll talk about in more detail next. Next slide, please. Here you can see a plan view of the veterinary suite. This is right off of reception, which allows somebody with a high stress animal to come straight in from reception through some waiting pods to the reception to minimize their contact with other people to keep the stress lower. At the upper left, you can see with lighter uh, flooring colors, the direction for cats. The cats are really separated from the dogs for a cat exam, cat ward 1, cat ward 2, where cats can be housed during the day. And then the dog path is on the bottom. You see a dog exam to the bottom left, a dog ward, dog courtyard, and another dog ward that I'll show you a detail on in a second. The middle area is the procedure room, surgery, lab and pharmacy, and related back of house areas. On the right, you can see a laundry and food prep for residents to bring in their animals and to work with them at night, as well as an education space and a dog wash. On the right, you can see the cat grove, which I'll show you in just a moment on the left. Next slide, please. Here is a wonderful part of this that Vickie's put a great deal of thought into. This is the actual dog wards meant for temporary housing of dogs with an interior part and an exterior part, both easy to clean. And you can also see the guillotine style door and also messaging and treats on the door and so forth to make this as easy to maintain and also lowest stress as possible for the animals. Next slide. Here we're back at the exterior again. I wanted to point out some of the features in the plaza. I know that there's a lot of features here. I would love to have my dogs here. There's everything from a splash pond with fountains, a wading pond that you can see in the upper right, and then some small circular ponds beyond that. We really tried to give some thought as to what the psychology of a dog would be as they look at this space, which you can see at the bottom right. They can kind of preview the space before they get out into it for a sense of safety. Next slide. Here you can see the play pods, which is meant for residents to have some private moments with their pets, and also on the right, areas that are long and more narrow for fetch with one's dogs and so forth. Next slide. And then lastly, here's the cat grove. This is one of my favorite spaces. This is meant to be just off of the people areas and sort of a respite quiet area with individual pods for people to just snuggle with their cats outside near bird feeders and so forth to make this a very nice space for cats with their residents. Next slide. Here you can see a close-up of one of those with a cat tower. These are totally enclosed, a screened sort of porch elements. And then you can see it's got a litter box, a place to sit, and just a place to look around in a quieter sort of environment for the lowest stress possible. Next slide. So again, this was just a briefest look at the many things that we've got going on. We're looking forward to releasing this whole thing in June for anybody to take a look at and hopefully apply as they see fit. Thank you for this time, and we look forward to your comments.
That was amazing. Vanessa, do you mind advancing the screen and then we can have Judy-Rae Karlsen talk? Thank you.
Hi, I'm Judy-Rae Karlsen. I was the project manager for a big renovation project here in Kitsap County, Washington. We were here actually 2 years ago and made a presentation to the My Dog is My Home conference and shared where we were in permitting and our original design with our actual facility. So this is now moving forward 2 years down the road. I wanted to show you we have completed our building, and we've used also many designs and ideas from, this is full disclosure, from Jill and Rebecca. They did make a trip out here and actually assisted with quite a few things. And then of course, Vickie Ramirez is a local girl here in Washington at the University of Washington. And so she's been great support. So we'll move into this really quick and then we'll come back and you can ask some questions too. Next. This is the building site that we renovated. It was the old fitness gym, and we are now the Pacific Building here in Kitsap County, run by the Department of Human Services. Next. So the thing we needed to start out with was, what was the vision? I was given at the very onset the idea of renovating this building, and then later down the road, it became a co-sheltering building. So I was asking the question, what is the vision for this co-shelter? Is it going to be containment? Is it going to be grooming? Is there going to be exam rooms? Is it going to be a playroom or a daycare? That was my first step in this big challenge. Step 2, next. Identifying the space. So as I walked through the old facility, I was looking at all of the different spaces where we could put a co-shelter facility, that where animals would be comfortable with owners who would be comfortable with their animals. So I needed to figure out, was I going to claim that space or was I going to share that space? Because we have a defined set of space, that's it. So I needed to do a quick inventory of every room in our facility and decide where is there power, water, sewer, and air circulation. Once I had this information, it was really valuable because when I started to put together design plans, now I had some actual facts. So next, step 3, organize a team of advisors. Now, I had never built a co-shelter facility in my life. This was my first project. Doing this challenge was huge. So typically my style is collaborative. I would look for veterinarians, active retired students, emergency vets, street dog vets, animal hospital administrators, animal trainers, behaviorists, animal rescue groups, pet groomers, doggy daycare, pet boarding staff, pet store owners, animal control officers, and of course, there's always somebody at the Salvation Army who will give you a hand. So start looking for that type of investment in your project. Next. Step 4, turn your vision into a reality. Now, when I say put a pet advisory group together, I mean that group is volunteering for you as a designer and as the construction project manager, and they will help you with every piece of your design. Every piece, they'll help you with everything. Equipment, storage, food, medications, vaccinations, safety and security, policies and procedures, insurance, and a whole bunch of other resources that they have that you never even thought about. You'll also want to consult with the following types of experts: interior designers, for trauma-informed design for human and animal shelter interaction. Super important. Your architect will create blueprints from your drawings and provide some creative options. And then, of course, your general contractor is going to take the building apart and put it back together the way you want it. Actually, if you don't have a local resource, contact any one of the following: My Dog is My Home, ASPCA, the local Humane Society, Red Rover does this as well, and then me. You can call me. I'd be happy to help you. Next. So here's my journey. I'm going to just start with the facts because the rest of it's kind of dreaming and scheming, okay? Fact is, from April 21st, December of 24, I renovated this former fitness center into a 75-bed residential co-shelter for unhoused persons and their companion animals. Fact was, the facility was 20,000 square feet on 4 acres. I was directed, after taking on the job, to incorporate pets into the renovation design. Fact is, I had no experience designing a pet-friendly shelter facility. The project was a huge challenge. The new shelter required livable facilities for guests and their companion animals. Super important term, livable facility. This facility was not going to be a severe weather shelter where you put mats on the floor, crates next to people, and let that type of co-sheltering. This meant livable. This meant heat, air, water, drains, septic, everything in that building needed to be for the safety and for both people and the pets, as well as the staff. The national average, of course, is 10% of unhoused people have companion animals. So given my 75% beds, that would be 7 or 8 animals, but we had 20,000 square feet. So my team decided that we would go for 26% as a starting number. 26% of 75 is 19 to 20 animals. So that's a number we started with. Our homeless navigators in our county who interact with our unhoused population reported most often they see dogs, cats, rabbits, and ferrets. So that was our population. We wanted to meet the need. Next, I had a lot of questions. Day 1, these are the questions I put together. There's nothing new on here. You've all seen these and asked these questions. What animals are we going to take in? How many? What are their needs? How will their needs be met? Medical needs, behavioral needs. What partnerships will I need to design this co-shelter? How do I find the resources? Where will they sleep? Where will they poop, pee? Do they need special food? Where's the food going to be stored? Where's all the clothing, bedding, bowls going to be stored? What about their medications? What are we going to do with these animals when their owner goes to church? What are we going to do with them? Will day and night kennels be needed? Blah, 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 all the way down, going over to the green section. What areas will be designated for animal care? Now, this is sort of my lane here. What animals, will animals be groomed on site? Will pet-safe chemicals be used for grooming? Will a washer dryer be needed for pet beds and clothing? Will pet-safe chemicals be used in the washing machines? Will buckets, mops, towels, squeegees, what do they need? What pet-safe chemicals are needed for cleaning up pet urine, feces, and vomit in the sleeping areas? Ask me how I know that. Because one day I brought my dog in to the shelter before we designed it and went into demo. And I had him walk around the entire facility. He went room to room with me. Of course, he's a Westie. He went a little bit ahead. Do you know what my dog told me? Every room will get marked. Every room. So all of a sudden, there's a whole new level. There were rooms my dog would not go in because they were too dark, or they were too loud, or something about that space was not comfortable, so they wouldn't go in there. So I learned a lot just by bringing my own pet in and watching him. Then of course, we're going to need, if we're going to put a room together, we need to look at who's using the room and what do they need. Right down to our special trash cans needed for animal waste. I mean, this sounds like detailed. It's not. It's day one. So then we looked at what security is needed for the animal safety, what security is needed for the office, kennels, and storage. Will animals have special ID tags, and will animals have behavioral issues inside a shelter? So now we're, talking not just about facilities, we're talking about using these facilities. What training will the shelter staff and the pet owners receive? Is there a handbook or guidelines for co-sheltering? What liability issues will there be? And when I run out of money, is grant funding available? Next. So where did I begin? Day 2, I called a friend, Dr. Karlsen Zimmer, and I asked her if she would work with me to determine what the animals needed in our new facility. Well, Dr. Karlsen said yes, and I made her chair of my pet advisory committee because this is her lane, her world, her expertise. In a couple of weeks, she had assembled an amazing and talented group of advisors to me. And this group was phenomenal and still exists today. So Dr. Karlsen Zimmers, Dr. Heather Hauser, Angie Williams, Bobby Cook, Diane Canifax, and Helen Kuchera all had a role to play in designing and putting this huge project together. What did I bring to the table? Not much. I listened a lot. I had a lot to learn. I needed some resources of my own. I needed to get online, find some conferences. Of course, this one is excellent. I mean, every day I open my email, there's more resources than I ever thought were possible when I started. Downloaded internet resources, met with professionals like Jill, like Becky, like Vickie, like my entire group, and just asked questions. And then what I really needed was experience. You can't do something if you don't know what you're doing or why you're doing it. So I volunteered at a local boarding facility during a holiday weekend several times during the year. I cleaned dog and cat kennels. I washed dogs. I fed dogs and I folded laundry just to get some experience on what was going to be happening. Next. Beginning also meant where in the facility am I going to put this pet center? So I took an inventory of my facility. I knew I didn't want to share space with any other program. And so I also need something I could secure. So I identified 2 large closets in our facility, big, large closets. And I thought, I'm not going to take away from sleeping areas or kitchen areas or playtime or training rooms. So let's go for the closets. So I identified 2 closets. Next slide. This is my building. This is what 20,000 square feet looks like. So we have an entrance, we have shelter rooms, we have offices, we have support services. And then the 2 green areas are the 2 largest closets that existed. The first one is the one that I chose initially because basically I didn't know what I was doing. The second one actually was preferred by everybody. And so we went over to the second one. I'm going to give you a picture of what the first one looked like. Next. This is the first one. Remember, this is an old stinky gym. So this was their laundry room. It was about 10 feet wide, 30 feet long. And I thought, wow, they got water here. They've got electricity. They got 240 voltage for the washing machines. They have hot water and cold water. They have a utility sink, all the things I needed. But that wasn't the room we chose. We chose, next slide, this room. This closet was right off the gym. on the side of the building. You'll see it in a second. This building also had resources. It had a light, it had plumbing fixtures, and it had a drain in the floor under those mats and a locked door. That's basically what we started with. Next picture. Why was this room preferable? Because Jill and Vickie came through the facility and they said, you need direct access to the outside for the pets. Can't be bringing the pets through the sleeping areas. Light bulbs went on, of course, but so we picked this. Where you see the arrow on the right is where the closet actually begins. Next. So the Pet Advisory Committee was reminded that we had 10 dogs, 8 cats, and 2 rabbits or ferrets. That's who we were going to be caring for. And the owners, we were going to be helping the owners care for them. So the animal care unit is the closet, the existing facility. But my Pet Advisory Committee said, wow, if we're going to be taking care of 20 animals, we need some other resources. So they said we needed to figure out a kennel area, an isolation room, a storage area, and some pet lockers for all the animals' stuff, their beds, their clothes, their leashes. So this is not a blueprint, by the way. This is just done on Word. This is not fancy. Next. So what we did was we took out our piece of paper and we looked at this design, and this is the design that we came up with. And of course, as you're designing things and thinking through things, you change it just a little bit, but this is where we really went to our architect, said this is what we want to have in our facility. Now remember, the blue room is the pet care office and the grooming area. That existed. Number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, and number 6 we had to build. So number 2 was going to be the work area and the food prep area for the animals. Number 3 was the dog runs, the kennel area. Number 4, the green spot, was an isolation room they felt was important for dogs or cats or ferrets or anybody that was coming in with an animal that needed a little bit of quiet, warm place to be alone. There's a storage area, number 5. And then we realized that every dog and every cat and owners, because they're living in a congregate shelter, needed more space. They needed some place to put all of their dog and cat and ferret and bunny stuff. So we gave them each a locker. Each animal in the facility has a locker now. There are 20 lockers at number 6. Next. So we had the architect draw it up. And the architect said this is entirely doable. So if you look at our pet care room, we added sink, desk, and cabinets, lock cabinets. We also added people lockers, a refrigerator, dryer, washing machine. And then in the food prep area, we added a table. You see some pet lockers, the isolation room, and the storage room. Totally doable. What we did was build a box inside of a box. Next. Okay, we've got the rooms. We got it all figured out. Now, what kind of equipment did we need? So we sat down and just dreamed, put our list together. And this is a total list of all the things of our first pass at the, and I realized, wow, this could be a lot of money. So at our conference 2 years ago, we presented this list and said, this is what we're thinking. And fortunately, the ASPCA was watching our program, called us up after and said, we would like to donate $10,000 to get you equipment. Done. Thank you. So we've got a few more things to get. We spent every penny of that $10,000. Next. We went into construction. You can see the kennel area there's in the concrete. We busted through the concrete for a nice French drain. You see the doorway that goes into the pet room. Next. This is what it looks like now. You walk in to that doorway. The pet center's in that door. In the dark doorway is our kennel room, and you can't see the lockers from this picture. Next. This is inside the pet room. We got the biggest tub I could find. We got a washer and dryer because pets have specific needs. Put in some cabinets. Next picture. Did the desk, locking cabinets, hand sink for our shelter organizers and our vets, visiting vets. You can see we put a window in there to see into the kennel system. And the next picture is a picture of the kennels. Dog runs, 4 of them. The back room there is the isolation room. Next. Storage. We have Care right now organizing the storage, and they're doing a beautiful job. Next. I had a blank wall that I wanted to somehow figure out to get the message that co-sheltering was a fun thing and could be a positive thing. So I had a mural. I designed a mural, found somebody to draw it. Next. This is him drawing it. Next slide. This is what it looks like. Dogs, cats, bunnies, and ferrets. This is called the We Are Family. It was donated by Care. Next. You can see it changes the entire presence of the day room. Next. This is the outside work. I have 2 slides to show you what we did outside. We had a lot of property. Next, we divided it up and designed a pet poop area, a children's playground, and a canopy in the back for sitting under there with your pet or your friend. We also have a large dog run in the back. So we had a lot of earth moving done as well. Next. Things to remember: every co-shelter facility will be unique. Take your time, design a great plan, be flexible. Every plan and every design can be modified. Your project will never have enough storage, never. Your project will take longer than you thought. Your project will cost more than you planned. After all your hard work, the human service provider may not be jumping for joy when they are tasked with care of people and their companion animals. So you want to engage your pet advisory committee members to help address the concerns or the fears from the human service providers. Why do I say them? Because they are your subject matter experts. They invested in the project and they will help you with the bumps on the road. Next. These are all my partners. I have a few more to add. Next. And that's the end of my presentation.
Both of those were amazing. Thank you so much for all that detail. And it's just really fun seeing how this has evolved in both Jill and Becky's plans. I've been privy to seeing some of it along the way. And then just seeing Judy-Rae, you putting this into action. It's super, super cool. We do have a few questions in the Q&A. And we kept amazing time, so we do have time if more people have more questions, and I'm assuming more things will come up as we talk. I'm gonna start just with the oldest one first. So that was kind of during the Jill Becky time. How can we adapt this sustainable model to an outdoor setting where there is a high risk of disease spread, such as parvo, coccidia, and mange, while still addressing the challenges of limited resources and difficult transportation? There's a part 2. What strategies can be implemented to prevent contamination, promote hygiene, and protect both animals and people in such an environment?
So I'll jump in, and if anyone else, feel free to add anything, Judy-Rae or Jill. So my expertise is centered in animal sheltering, and I'm bringing that to this work that I'm doing. And the main way we manage those risks in animal shelters too is by having protocols for preventative care at the point of intake. So everybody gets dewormed, everybody gets vaccinated. And so you do a lot of the things that help prevent those problems or treat them should they happen to be there if they're subclinical. And so you nip them and you limit it that way. And then you have good protocols in place for monitoring health. So if an animal looks really sick or is having severe diarrhea, there needs to be a plan for what will happen and whether or not that animal is allowed to go outside or not. And that's how you limit contamination. How do we get that animal seen by a veterinarian now? And so it's just about having the plan in place because those things are going to pop up, right? You have animals in the facility that's going to happen. You have a plan and you pay attention, basically. So I'm not being specific, but if you want those specific details, you can turn to a lot of the resources that are put out there for animal shelters. So there's a lot of specific protocols, even when it comes to intake protocols for cats and dogs to animal shelters to help limit infectious diseases. And that's where I'll stop on that one.
Great. Jill, do you have any addition?
No, I need to defer to Becky on that one.
Okay. I am going to call in Judy-Rae just because you are doing that at your site. So what advice would you have in order, like, what are your policies on entry? And how do you limit that contamination?
Well, actually, the bigger question is how do you limit the reach of your pet advisory committee? Because my pet advisory committee is the group that I would go to for that answer.
Mhm.
And of course, they're street vets, they're retired medical emergency vets, they're, domesticated animal vets. They know exactly what needed to be done. But that was not the focus of the group in the beginning. That's why I said they got involved in everything. So I would defer to my experts. That would be my
Great.
answer. I would keep them close.
So when people enter your facility, are there requirements for a checkup, updated vaccines, that type of? You're on mute. Hold on, Judy. Judy-Rae! I don't want you going too far. You're on mute. There
Okay,
you go.
so this happened just a couple of months ago. People started moving in December, and we realized that we were facing a couple of obstacles with the types of animals that wanted to come in that our service provider did not want, at least initially. And so we got my friends on the pet advisory group said, here we go. We are going to move forward. What we'll do is we'll take the intake one step out of the shelter environment. And so when people are doing their intake with the county, their pets are going through an intake process at the county level. Then they are referred over to the shelter provider. So there's an extensive intake form for both the owner and the pet.
Yeah.
But yes, it's important, super important.
So at the shelter that I work with the One Health Clinic, all the folks that are staying there, if they're checking in with their animal, they're kind of strongly, nah, I would actually say they're required to come to see us when we have our clinic. So that could be like that week or the following week, just as a way to get that preventative piece kind of covered. All right, so another question that came on a little bit on the front end. I know that this has been long in the works. Where can we get more info on this model? And that's yours, Jill, Becky, your model. I put in the chat box the design resources for homelessness.org page, but go ahead.
Yeah, great question. There are two parts to this project. The first part was written, and it essentially establishes the need for animals in shelters to be sheltering with their folks and so forth. And that was project between my dog, my dog is my home and Design Resources for Homelessness, that is already posted to both those organizations' websites. That might have been the URL you posted. The other part, the visual part, the applied part that we previewed today, we're estimating that will be ready probably in June or July of this year. And it will be posted to the Design Resources for Homelessness website, probably the My Dog is My Home website too. And all of it is available for free. There is no charge to access this.
Um, and this was a good one because Judy-Rae, you tore it all down and built it all up. And Jill and Becky, you have so many ideas within like that whole menu of options. What are some low-hanging fruit items that shelters can address at little cost in their current facilities to make a design more pet inclusive?
I can start with a couple of things. I'm sure
Sure.
both of you will have ideas too. Um, there's big expensive things like how big rooms are and how they're aligned and so forth. But then there's small things too. There's thinking about the local activity of sitting down with an animal to meet with other people, where you have a leash attached to a sofa, or you have a scent portal mounted to the front of a reception desk to give animals something interesting to smell while you're interacting with the receptionist. There are, providing lockers, as Judy-Rae did so well, to, manage the flow of stuff that comes with animals and so forth. In the bigger pie, you can, think about how sight lines are arranged, or how scents travel or audio travels when you start to place things into and areas into your shelter and so forth. So I'm convinced there's small things and then there's big things. But along with that, you have to think about how durable things are. Are area rugs washable in the washing machine? How do you manage fluids and so forth, as Judy-Rae managed, or as Judy-Rae identified and so forth. So there's a lot of things you can do with paint. In terms of lighting, you can do a lot of things to improve the lighting in your space. So it's not all expensive stuff by any means.
Judy-Rae, did you want to add something or?
Oh, no, I think Jill covered every single bit of it.
I'll jump in then. A couple things that come to my mind, and Judy-Rae did a great job highlighting this, is thinking about pathways. Um, and we're trying to make a calming, peaceful environment for as many of the people and animals that are there at any given time, but thinking about how dogs in particular can contribute to noise and sort of a general state of excitement, for better or for worse. And so being intentional about how animals with their people are moved and move through the facility is really, really helpful and doesn't necessarily require any investment. And then thinking about a couple things. So keeping minds and bodies healthy, right? So enrichment opportunities for animals, frozen Kongs, frozen food bowls, things for animals to do while they're there with their people, so that they can practice being calm and enjoying something. That can be super valuable. And then last but not least, as much as you can, create opportunities for the families with the animals included in this. Sorry, my family just got home. To have something that feels like theirs for the time that they're in that space, right? So this is my bed. The dogs and the cats start to identify that too for the time that they're there. And so again, having those personal things that they become familiar with is really helpful.
That's one thing we really tried to emphasize in the hypothetical project, is a positive territoriality, where in a pod, an animal could be briefly contained within their crate, but also with the use of a Dutch door gate, they could also be contained with their person inside their pod. So there's kind of a buffer and a series of empowering choices that somebody could make for everybody's happiness.
The only thing I would add is that if you look at what your vision is for your co-sheltering program, if it's to house the pet and the person, you've got some obvious objectives you need to cover. But if it's just for grooming or just for visiting or just for a vet clinic time, you've got, you need to make that site specific to what your vision is. Um, so ours is a co-sheltering congregate shelter, but the point of having co-sheltering is that both the person and the animal are ready to move into their next housing solution, right? So both the mind, the body, the education, the training, the owner needs it and the pet needs it. So, we want to get people out of our shelter into housing, and we can't do that with just an owner. We need to include the pet.
Great. We don't have any new Q&As, but I feel a little bad because I didn't click on the full thing where the individual had asked about how do we risk the spread of disease. That first question or second question that we had had a follow-up, and I want to make sure that that they get that answered. And Maris, if I said that right, just showed herself on video. Um, they asked, what if I am coming in? Okay, so the original question was, how can we adapt a sustainable model to an outdoor setting where there's a high risk of disease spread, parvo, cocci, mange? And the follow-up question is, what if I'm coming in after the issues have already arisen? So it sounds like they've been tasked post parvo outbreak or something.
I
It's
would
hard
suggest that
to,
you get your cleaning protocols in order, or the site has some really specific cleaning protocols. And your vaccination list is for every animal that comes through that is needed, I think. But, a 100% cleaning situation would be what you'd be looking at right there. That means floors, walls, rugs, baths, everything would need to be cleaned.
yeah, and what I'll add to that is if we're specifically thinking about an outdoor environment. So if let's say we know there was a parvo dog out there, and so there's likely some parvo, the likelihood of that being a risk to other dogs who are preventatively vaccinated upon arrival, if it was uncommon, if the contamination is quote unquote light, um, the risk is still fairly low, and you may not need to take any specific action in that case other than keeping the incoming animals as healthy as possible. If you think that the contamination is heavy, it may require more investment where maybe you'd want to remove some of the upper layer of the soil surface and replace it with more soil, more turf, or pea gravel or something. But a lot of the times, at least in the animal shelter world, the fear of exposure to infectious disease is so much higher than the actual risk. And again, I don't say that to dismiss infectious disease concerns because they are real in these settings where we have groups of people and animals together. But as long as we have good screening and preventative care practices in place, we're going to limit the risks for everybody going into those situations. And again, having sporadic cases of animals with parvo. Again, one example, sorry, I'm spinning a little bit here, is if feces are picked up promptly when a dog defecates outside, whether or not it has parvo, there's almost no risk of that, right? We get it cleaned up, we get it thrown in the designated bin that's been provided for the residents to clean up after their dog. That helps limit the risk significantly again. So I know the question was, okay, I'm coming into a situation where I'm worried about how much contamination is here, but it's hard to speak specifically to that other than do your best on the incoming end, but also then consider, is the risk as high as you think it is in terms of what the contamination level is at this point?
Thanks so much. I will just add the micro addition is that you can have like some easily accessible educational material for folks on the front end so that they like at the front reception, oh, here's a new puppy. Oh, just so you know, because parvo is going to happen in the normal urban streets that people are walking down or in the lawns. It's not going to be because you're in a shelter or
Great point.
whatever, right?
Mhm.
And so just a little bit of like, okay, well, here's something you may want to read about, so know about vaccines, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, that was my pitch.
Lovely.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jill, Becky, and Judy-Rae for joining today. It's so fun and interesting, and I think super helpful just to see like the real tangible kind of support and just knowing that all this material and all this information is free and accessible for all these people who are now going to start co-sheltering because of the conference. And have a lovely day. And I think we just move on to our final closing session. So thank you all. Have a lovely one.
Thank you.
Take care.